again. Welcome. Have a seat. Get a cup of coffee. Relax. Someone like Einstein would call deep thought dealing with physics and understanding of science and someone dealing with medicine would call deep thinking how to manage operation on some person that needs brain surgery. Most of us don't deal with those things, and really it could be argued, I believe, successfully, that we all need deep thought in relating to life. And the reason so many struggle with life, beyond the natural things of your individual upbringing, and I have found that everyone in some way needs to deal with their upbringing. They need to overcome the negatives of their particular upbringing. And even those who have what we might consider a good upbringing, they have things that they must overcome. I say must, but unless you starve to death or become deathly ill, you'll continue without it. But if you want the good life that most people are seeking, then it requires deep thought. Now, some consider thinking, or especially deep thinking, is an examination of information that they've acquired and they rearrange their prejudices. That's not what I'm talking about either. The world is going to great effort to keep people from thinking. Because there are people with money and authority that prosper from our labor if we don't think. And after a lifetime of doing what somebody else wants us to do for their benefit, not for ours, then at some point, many people wake up after years have passed and they think, boy, things aren't turning out the way I wanted. Now, some will continue just like they always have. They won't change. But if things are not going well, for goodness sake, change something. To think that you can continue the way you always have and get a different result is considered a sign of mental illness. So I just simply say that deep thought requires deep thought. I've met a number of people that have never had a good think. They react to everything. Their life is a continuation of reacting to events. And sometimes they consider that thinking. I don't believe it's thinking at all. Deep thought is not thinking about what you'll have for breakfast or how to fry the eggs. Deep thought is not what kind of clothing you should buy. Deep thought is not choosing the dress that you'll wear for Easter Sunday. Deep thought is not the realization that you need to find an apartment to live because living in your car is not working out. That's not deep thought. That's just everyday decisions that everyone has to make, and that is not deep thought. So we're all faced with these restrictions to controlling, designing, and planning our life, things that we need every day: food, clothing, and shelter. That takes effort. And human beings are generally lazy. Or at least I'm thinking that other people are much like me. I try to avoid things that I don't enjoy. I've had a number of people tell me, and I just find this amazing, that deep thinking about something, especially something that's unpleasant, makes their head hurt. It's not funny. It's really not funny. This is life. And if we live life as a series of reactions to stimuli, then we're probably not going to end up, when we look back over our life and say, this is the kind of life I envisioned, this is what I wanted to live. When I look back over my life, I am truly amazed at the ignorance I displayed. And I feel that I've progressed to the point where I have some understanding of my level of ignorance, and that helps me think and plan and do better in the future. I've had a number of friends and family and loved ones that didn't have the privilege of living as long as I have. I have several that's lived many years more than I have. Some of them I consider much wiser than I'll ever be, and some of them, if they live to be 100, well, what word shall I use? They don't seem to learn anything by experience. They haven't frozen to death, they haven't starved to death, and they live the same way. And it's not where they want to be, not where they plan to be, but they're doing nothing to change it. If you have a desire for deep thought, to take the measure of things, of your relationships with others, of your work, or what you might possibly do to have an income to live and buy the necessities of life, you might determine after deep thought that, okay, you are X number of years old, you need to bite the bullet, as we say, and go back to school. That might be a good choice for you, but for goodness sake, if you do further your education, get that education furthered in some area where you can get a job when you graduate. We have a number of young people, mainly young people, graduating from universities and colleges and even trade schools, and that gained education doesn't allow them to work where they'd like to work. I know a young man who is just just brimming with capabilities. And he went to a welding school and did well. And then he found that he didn't enjoy being a welder at all. I believe a little deep thought would have kept him from making that mistake. Among the things that help in thinking that I've found is a place to think. Now, your chosen place to have some deep thoughts probably different than mine. Some people, I know some people, know people well that if they're studying for college or whatever they're doing, they want music playing, or it might be rock music, which stirs up the emotions. It might be acid rock or something, or they'll have something playing on the TV. Man, I can't handle that. If I have thinking to do, and I have thinking to do every day, then I want a quiet place. I want a place, if preferred, my perfect place. Well, I don't really have a perfect place. I don't even have one in mind. But an environment that I prefer, if I actually have some deep thought to undertake, is a place where there's running water, where there's trees, where there is a pleasant view, a quiet place. Where there's not the distractions that we have if we're around a computer or a TV or a house full of kids. Now, if you're a young mother with children, if you're a father that's home from a hard day's work and you want to spend time with your children and with your wife, and the plumbing needs fixed and the floors need swept, it can be difficult. And I suppose that's why a lot of people don't do it. But I'm just putting the thought out there that if you want your life changed for the better, and after 20 or 30 years have passed, if you want to look back and say, well, turned out pretty well, then it takes effort. And you might find, with practice, go back to the young mother with children, all the responsibilities. They're finally all asleep and she's tired, but she can relax in the living room and think a little bit before she has to go to bed. Maybe that's all you can do. But if you want to have deep thoughts and a good life, it takes effort and takes some thought to arrange a place, an environment where you can do some of that deep thinking. Without it, things aren't likely going to turn out like you would like. Well, that's what I have today. I hope it's of some benefit to you. You have a good day. Bye-bye.